Good afternoon, everybody. We're grateful to have you today on a very, very special Friday afternoon here on the McFiles, and we were very saddened yesterday we couldn't get this dear lady on the phone with us, but we've got her on today, live from Normandy, France. Glennie Sims McDonald. Glennie, I cannot tell you how good it is to hear your voice today, dear, and to have you on this special Friday afternoon. And I know yesterday we had some phone issues and over there, but I want to say welcome today. It's good to have you back on the McFiles. We had you back on 5 years ago in the 75th anniversary of this, and I know it's a very important day for you. You've been helping these veterans from D-Day for many years now, and I'm so grateful to have you. Let me say hello to you first, and then we'll talk to you. Good to see you today.
Good to see you too, and I thank you so much for inviting me. I feel really privileged to be with you.
The honor's ours, and I'm just going to warn the audience, and we're on a cell phone from Normandy. Her service is in and out, so if we lose her, we'll get her back. But Lenny, let me do this before we start. Tell everybody a little bit what you've been doing for these veterans, because there's not many organizations out there that I know of, honestly, that has done as much for veterans of D-Day than you've done. I'm being honest with you. I know there may be some out there, but you've done such a work. You've made it possible for some of the veterans in America to go to Normandy to celebrate this event each year. And tell everybody a little bit what your organization, what you've done to help these organizations. Sure. And then we'll get more into the D-Day itself and what you've seen today and yesterday over there on the 80th Sure. anniversary of this.
Sure. Well, first of all, my organization is called Normandy Remembers. And it's named after people who got in our Americans. Don't forget them any day of their lives here. There are more American flags flying in Normandy, in towns and villages and hard America. I started coming here, it's been 11 years that I've been doing this, but I came for the first time in 2004 for D-Day. And it came after my father had passed away, and it was just something I felt that I wanted to do. And so fast forward, I came back in 2013, and I just had a really poignant experience with a D-Day veteran on the beach. And he helped me understand that it sure was and such he's my father, who kept things inside all his life after the war. His community never spoke, but when we knew this man had the same type of life, and he ended up just telling me all kinds of things, and I wrote about that and just went on Facebook, and just one thing led to another, and I was offered a position as a Normandy America relations person over here, and with the organization. And then I just, so many people came up to me when I would tell them my story, telling me that they lived in these villages here and that they had never spoken about their experience as a victim of war, that they wanted to tell me their story. And so one thing led to another, and I started collecting testimonies.
Wow.
And then, and locally near me at the same time, there were veterans that had opportunities to come to Normandy and just didn't know if they wanted to do it or not. So I started speaking to organizations at home, trying to talk veterans into coming over. And we have helped several veterans come over here. I had one this year. I'm a small organization. Greatest Generations Foundation is a huge and wonderful foundation that brings lots of veterans, and so is Best Defense. That's Donnie Edwards. He was a pro football player, and he now wants to give back to the people who took care of us, liberated us. And then there's Gary Sinise, the man who
played Sarge. The actor.
An actor, yeah, and he does a great deal to bring veterans over. And then there's some smaller organizations like mine. And this year, we had almost 200 veterans on stage at the Normandy American Cemetery's D-Day commemoration. And it was just, I don't know how to explain it. It was the experience of a lifetime, because we will not pass this way again with these men.
We won't. We won't.
It will not happen again. And so it's just been a very tiring week. My veteran is going home in the morning, and I told him goodbye just now, and it's 11 o'clock at night over here.
Right.
For those of you that don't know. But anyway, it's a very emotional week, and a lot of traffic, a lot of people, a lot of waiting, and a lot of security. For the first time that I've ever been here at D-Day, there were special forces with machine guns practically everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's been a good experience, and I'm privileged to be in the position to know these people and to bring them with me. It's not anything that I've done. It's just some kind of gift that God has given me, and I don't really think I deserve it, but God has given me this gift of these people, and I'm not going to. In the past in my life, I've taken gifts for granted and maybe thrown them away, and this is a gift that I didn't throw away, and I'm very thankful for it. So it's not really anything that I've done. I think it's what God has maybe done and placed in my life. I
totally agree, buddy, and I'm with you there. I understand the feeling. I do want to ask you a question about these vets. I know you had one there. How many total? Do you know about how many were there yesterday total?
I think there were just under 200.
Wow.
In the and that's a lot.
That is a lot.
I think that's more than, I think that's more than the 75th or the 70th. If I'm remembering correctly, it's a lot. And Chris, it was very poignant yesterday. The biggest standing ovation and the longest standing ovation I think I've ever seen. They announced it. Unlike past years, they announced the veterans one by one, and they were wheeled out, or what they walked out. Maybe 6 or 7 or so walked out, but they were wheeled out in a wheelchair, pushed by a member of the active duty military of the United States, and accompanied by their caregiver, their son, their daughter, their spouse, whoever their one person in their life that they chose to be there with them. And it took a long time for those veterans to be announced, and each one of them got a roaring round of applause, and there was a standing ovation. Nobody sat down for the entire time. It was just a highlight for everybody around me. The military, the active duty military, I sat with a lot of them, and it was just a privilege for them to give those people a round of applause. It was quite poignant. It was quite poignant, and I think everybody that it was just sort of an unspoken thing in the audience that we won't be doing this again. I don't.
I'm going to ask you, do you think, I know that y'all do this every year, I mean, and I think I heard one of the commentators that said, it's really, if you think about the awesomeness of the moment, because like you said, a lot of these veterans, Glennie, are now in their 90s, 80s, and 90s, and to have 200 of them yesterday there, that's incredible, because look, another 10 years from now, we're not going to have 200 veterans at a D-Day celebration. We're just not. And I'm not sure if we're going to even, the way the country's going right now in the world, I hope they'll keep doing this, but it makes you wonder how long they'll keep honoring these vets on D-Day. And I have to say this, and I'll get your opinion about this. Look, I'm no fan of Emmanuel Macron. I know he was late to the ceremony yesterday. But I have to say, it seemed to me, and I'll let you chime in on this, that he gave our vets more respect than our own president did.
Of course he did. Of course he did. He gave a wonderful speech. And actually, he arrived on time.
Did he? The media over here reported he was late, but I'm glad you clarified that.
He was waiting on someone to walk in with that person.
Gotcha.
He arrived on time. I saw his helicopter come in. He arrived on time. So, he... And really, you can say what you want to about him. The man respects our veterans.
He does.
He really and truly does. And not just this year. 5 years ago, when President Trump was there, I just remember sitting there and listening to him, and he was humble. And he looked around at those men and he said, we know what you did for us. We know where we would be without you. We know who we owe our liberty to.
That's great.
And he never felt, if he's invited to something for these men here, he really he makes an effort to be there. He does. You can say what you want to about his politics, but as far as the man respecting these veterans, he does.
And I gained respect for him yesterday. Look, I can overlook the politics because what he showed me yesterday, and I didn't pay as much attention to it 5 years ago, but I paid attention to it yesterday, and I have to tell you, I've grown to respect him more than I did before Friday the 6th of June, honestly. And I never had respect for this president, but I lost even more for him the way he acted because he embarrassed America on the world stage. But you know what he did, Jenny, to me? Well, Glennie, I'm sorry, not Jenny, Glennie.
Okay.
You know what he did? He disrespected the memory of these veterans of the 80th anniversary, these veterans that, again, were teenagers, kids. I got someone in the audience right now, they said that their wife's 101-year-old uncle is over there right now. So some of these men are in their 90s, 100s. Look, these men were getting off boats as teenagers, going into a bloodbath to liberate Europe and ultimately liberate the world from fascism. And you cannot tell me that we could not have taken just one moment yesterday as a country, America, our leaders, to acknowledge that and not get into the weeds of this Ukraine-Russia crap and again just blow it off. I mean, him and Jill left early, and I don't want to delve into the weeds of this because I want to respect the veterans. This is what the program's about today. But it just grieved me over here, and I know it grieved a lot of people as we watched it from overseas. And I'm just curious how the people reacted over there in Normandy to our president.
It was disturbing. I will say that. It was disturbing. Now, I was not, in years past, I chose to sit in the back of the crowd because I like to watch people and I like to see the reactions of people. But this time I was up in the front. And to me, it was disturbing. And I heard many, many groans near me.
Really?
And I will say, yes. And he turned around, listen, I'm just going to be a little bit sarcastic right now. Nothing screams liberation and peace and liberty and freedom and sacrifice for freedom and the never again with the Holocaust. Nothing screams that like screaming about starting a new war right in front of those people and slapping them in the face.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what it was.
Exactly.
And whatever shred of respect I tried to have for him, I have zero now. I just can't. I mean, with what I'm doing right now, I deal with Democrats and Republicans and everybody in between, and we don't talk politics or anything, but because that's not what this is about. This transcends politics, in my opinion.
It does.
And
it does.
It does with me anyway. Yesterday he made it political, and he made it about Ukraine, and he made it about he was banging war drums while we were commemorating sacrifice for peace, and that's not okay. But it wasn't okay with anybody that was around me. When it was time to clap for him, I mean, I think I clapped 3 times, and people around me were like maybe clapping 2 times, and there were lots of groans. There were people, like Pelosi was there, John Kerry was there.
Yeah, I saw him in the crowd.
The little girl that's the press secretary was there. There were congressional people there. There were political people there, and they just were, enthralled. But those of us who are not benefiting from, sending men to war for blood money, we didn't think so much of it. We just didn't think so much of it. It wasn't a good speech. And then for him to walk off the stage when Macron was still there.
I saw that.
The president leaves our veterans and doesn't care enough to shake their hands, but the president of France stays and took the time to do that. And he did that. Every time I've seen him there, he takes the time to shake their hands and thank them. I probably need to not talk politics anymore.
Well, and that's fine. I mean, you said what I wanted. I mean, I get what you're saying, and that's what I wanted to get an idea of how it was over there. And look, I'm with you. We felt it over here. I'm telling you right now. I mean, we had a live special yesterday. I was fired up. I mean, it was embarrassing to me, but it's more than embarrassing. I think you said something. It transcends politics, these veterans, and I want to go back to the veterans.
Okay.
Glennie, these men are special. They need to be made special. I think that it's a dangerous trend in our nation, in our world, and that's why these celebrations are so important, because there are forces basically behind this president and behind this party, one of the parties here in this country, and I would say maybe all of them, I don't know, but history is trying to be rewritten. History is trying to be erased. And when you have these celebrations, people probably are out there wondering, why do we do these things? Well, it's a very simple answer. It's the same reason we commemorate the Holocaust, we commemorate D-Day, we commemorate the beginning of World War II, the end of it. We commemorate these things because there's this thing that's going on with our kids and these young people. I guarantee if you was to take a survey of 1,000 young people in America, I'm not so sure 50 of them would even know what D-Day is. I don't even think 50 of them would even know what it is, because they've never been taught this in high school. They've never been taught that it was the day that we liberated Europe from German oppression and fascism and Nazism. I don't even think the kids would know what Nazism is. If you ask them, they're acting like Nazis. I mean, that's what they're acting like, because they're being taught to act like them. But I just think that these events are so vital, and it does have to hurt. If I'm a veteran, okay, if I was a veteran on that stage, and I see this happening after witnessing probably the carnage and the death and the danger that they went through that day in that canal off of Omaha Beach, France, and Normandy, and being, it was by the miraculous grace of God that those that survived. Glennie, 50,000 Germans were in a high place shooting at them. The rate of success was very low. Even Churchill didn't want to do this at the beginning because he was scared that it was going to be a massacre and a bloodbath on our part, on the Allies, and it was, and we lost thousands. But yet, if we wouldn't have done it, the course of history could have very well been changed. It wasn't just a pivotal war of the World War II or battle. This was, I believe, the pivotal war of the 20th century in many ways, because if we would not have succeeded this day, Germany could have kept on basically doing what they wanted to do, and I do not believe Hitler would have ever stopped. I do not believe he would have ever stopped.
Well, I can tell you the people here, I can't even count. It wasn't tens or dozens. It was hundreds, multiple hundreds of people came up to these veterans. And mine in particular, I'm sure it was hundreds of people came up to him and said these words: "Thank you for my liberty. If it had not been for what you did for me, I wouldn't have my children." And they would show him their children and their grandchildren. "I would not be free. My son would have never been born. I would not have this grandchild." And it's real. It's real over here. We went into a school, and a lot of the organizations do take their veterans into French schools because there's such a hunger that young people have to know these men and to ask them questions. And they ask very thoughtful questions. The school that I went into was a middle school. They had some of the most thoughtful questions, asking, what was it like? How do you feel about the Germans today? Were you afraid you were going to die? Why did you come and liberate people you don't even know? Why did you sign up to serve? Why would you want to risk your life for people that you don't even know if they're good people? Why would you risk your life for them? Like, they had very poignant questions.
Right.
And you go in their classrooms, and there are pictures of American soldiers,
Isn't that
British
beautiful?
soldiers,
Wow.
and Canadian soldiers. And you go into homes, and there are pictures of the soldiers who liberated their village. They set plates at their dinner tables for the soldiers who died to liberate their village, still to this day. And it's just a whole different world here than in America. And maybe that's why... No, it is why I named my organization Normandy Remembers, because Normandy remembers. The people here remember, and it's real to them. And they educate their kids. And just the emotion. I mean, there was a man, we had gone out yesterday or the day before. They're kind of running together, but we came in, and there had been a man standing there. Our neighbor said that he'd been standing there for 2 hours at the front gate. 2 hours, and he was crying when we got there. and he knew that an American veteran was staying there. We had put up a banner that had our veteran's name and, World War II veteran on the house. And he had been standing there for 2 hours just to shake his hand and to tell him thank you. He could not speak English. He could not really say anything else. And he was so emotional that he really just, he remembered he was a small child when this happened here. And he remembers as I think he was 3, he remembers the horror of that day. He lost a lot of family, but he said, without you, I would not have lived. American GIs saved him. They took him to their tent and they kept him in their tent a few days and fed him with their rations. And, he knows where his liberty came from.
Right.
And I'll tell you something else, Chris. You can go in these little churches over here. Like there's a church near Carentan, which is where the 101st Airborne liberated that town, fierce battle. And there's a little community called Ungleville Au Plein. And there's a little tiny church there. And during the night of D-Day, the 101st Airborne paratroopers landed there, including 2 medics. And there was a horrible battle in the churchyard, a horrible battle. And the battle switched hands all during the night. The Germans were in charge, the Americans were in charge. Villagers were getting killed and slaughtered also. And there were 2 little medics who would run out of that church through the gunfire and grab a villager and bring the villager back. Grab an American, bring an American back. Grab a German and bring a German back. And they operated on them in the church. They had, there's still blood on the pews. They operated on them. They turned it into an operating room. And it was just a fierce thing. But these 2 medics have been remembered so lovingly by this community all through this year that the stained glass windows that were blown out of this church were replaced with a couple stained glass windows, actually. But one of them is the scripture that says, greater love hath no man than this, that he would lay down his life for his friends. And there's a screaming eagle for the 101st Airborne, and there are paratroopers coming down like angels.
I bet that's beautiful.
So Jesus is their liberator, but they also had other liberators.
Yes, they did.
So that these people here, they do not forget. And I'll tell you something else that was so meaningful for one of these medics. He came back year after year after year. And a lot of people that fought here would not come back here because they thought the French hated them, because they literally destroyed this area. Americans, let's be real. When the ships opened up at 6:30 on June 6, 1944, they killed civilians here. It was a necessary evil. There were civilians that were killed by Americans to get rid of this horrible, tyranny here. And so these veterans, they thought that these people hated them all these years. And when they finally came back, all they found was love. And the people here were so overjoyed that they had returned. And there is a stained glass window in another church with the paratroopers as angels, and it says they have returned to us. And it was so meaningful to this one medic that I was telling you about. He's buried here. He's buried in that churchyard. His remains were brought here. And I guess you just have to be here to experience it. But after being in America and it being so jaded for so many years, and it's been building. It's not just the last years since Trump's been in office. It's not just since Obama. We've been jaded for so many years.
That's true.
And we have been programmed to be so have such animosity toward each other in America. And we've been so dumbed down to the reality that liberty has a price, a very steep price. These people don't have that yet. And I know we're in socialist France, and I know that the politics over here is crazy like the politics at home. Well, not as crazy as in America, frankly, but politics is politics. But there's something here that we used to have in America, but we don't have it anymore, and we need to get it back. And these people who come and commemorate this, even the most hardened people, they come and they're just kind. And they'll do anything for these veterans, and they'll offer anything, and they're just so overjoyed that these men have returned, and women have returned to them. And also, I'll say this. Our active duty military comes here too. They are here right now. The 101st Airborne is in Carentan. The 82nd Airborne is in a town called St. Mary Glees, where they liberated them. The Marines are here. The Air Force is here. The Navy is here. Navy ships have been off the coast. We have American Air Force planes flying over us every day. They're all here. And the people here, more than one, more than 10, more than 50, I have seen them go up to those liberators, those Americans, and say, "You are our liberators too," because we know if we ever get to a point where we need to be freed again, we know America will come and save us.
They hope.
Now, that's not the government, but the people here say that.
I know. And you know, Glennie, it's funny because they respect. It is sad that they respect our military more than most Americans do here. And it's really telling that attitude exists over there. And you're right. Look, France and America's had a very complicated relationship through the centuries, and we've had been very complicated going back to the Second World War, to be frank with you, the first. And it's always been complicated. But when push comes to shove, when France has needed America's help, America has always been there. And I believe under the right leadership, that will be restored again. But we're living, as you said, in such jaded times. And I think there ain't a soul out here this afternoon that's listening to us that's probably not feeling a little bit of that. I want to just say this, folks, if you're watching a very special live, this was something we had planned to do yesterday with Glennie, but we couldn't get her on the phone, but we're grateful she could come tonight. It's late, so I'm not going to keep her much longer. But if you've got a question out there for relating to the situation in Normandy, please put it in the chat in the YouTube or the Facebook audience, and I'll ask it to her. We're going to keep her about another 15 minutes because it is getting late. Glennie, let me ask you this. Now, I know, do they do this every year there or just every 5 years?
Yes, they commemorate D-Day Normandy commemorates D-Day every year. Every 5 years is when the leaders of the world come.
Gotcha.
I believe there were. I didn't go to the international ceremony because it was right after the Normandy American Cemetery ceremony, which is the one we attended. But I believe there were 25 different world leaders here down at that ceremony.
Okay.
And so every 5 years, the presidents, the world leaders come, but the people here commemorate it every single year, and they do it upright. They do it big every single year. It's just that this 5 years, I think, and especially this one, I think people sense that it might be the last where we have these great people among us.
Well, it's a given that you're not going to have 200 veterans there in 5 years. I mean,
but you know what? And time goes on, and it is logistically becoming more and more impossible. But we said the same thing on the 75th,
right?
And then here they are. And like yesterday, I talked with a United States Merchant Marine. He was 107. My veteran is 99, and he's one of the younger ones. He lied to get in when he was 17. So, you know, there were just, all of them were 100 and over. Most all of them were 100 and over.
It's amazing.
And
it's amazing God's preserved them
amazing.
that long, you know, if you think about it. That He's amazing He's preserved these men that long.
It is amazing that they have been preserved this long. And watching them this past week, and watching the people interact with them, it has been a beautiful thing. These I mean, gee, I've been, you know, like trying to keep up with politics for all these last couple years, and then the whole COVID thing, and you know, losing people, and then but you come here and it's like I feel like I'm back in the 1960s, and you have the
yeah.
What, you know, the song "What a Wonderful World." I see,
yeah.
You know, it feels like that with these guys are so pure.
They are.
And I know there are scoundrels in every generation. I know they're not all just, you know, angels or anything like that. But for the most part, this generation is just, they are so pure. They trust. They say what they mean. They mean what they say. A handshake counts as something. They're humble. It just took me back to, you know, my own father fought also here, and or out in the Navy here and in the Pacific. He also fought, and it just kind of took me back to when my dad was raising me, and we had this view of America as this, you know, land of liberty and this land of peace and prosperity and opportunity, and it took me back to that. Just being around these men took me back to that, and I think that's the sense of life that they also convey to the people here. When the people here see them, it's emotional. It's emotional for them.
Yeah.
And I think they have that sense too. And I think we all kind of silently have this sense that this may be passing from us. And I've had more than one conversation with French people and people from Germany and Belgium, the Netherlands and Holland. I mean, Holland is in the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Great Britain, Ireland, Brazil. I've had more than one conversation with people from those countries about, okay, we have been paying tribute to these wonderful great men, and it's almost like those great men and women were looking to us now, saying, you have to do this. This is on you now. You have to do this. And they were shaking our hands, and they were telling us, you you need to remember that liberty lost is hard to regain. You need to value liberty. You need to love each other. You need to serve each other. They were
Come on, Glennie.
I mean, and they shared their faith in the school that I took my veteran to. The children were like, Mr. Sergeant, what is the one thing you would want to tell us? And he shared his faith with them and telling them that, God got him through this war. God gave him a life, children, and to never forget what God can do in your life, even if you don't believe in him. Open your mind to the possibility that there may be a God and that he can do something for you and that he loves you. And that was kind of a universal thing that happened here.
If 68 Beefy is in the chat room still, he said that his wife's 101-year-old uncle is there. I'm just curious if her uncle is one of the Normandy vets. I'm just curious. Beefy, if you're out there, just chime in about that. If you've got somebody, folks, we can't keep Glennie forever. Keep calling you Jenny. Glennie, can't keep her forever now. If you got a question for her, put a question in, or you got any comments about, I know Tony Salamone had a family member that served in the war. She was very appreciative. Out Dory West, good to see you, Dory, this afternoon. She's a moderator and so forth, and she had someone dear to her, and her, I think it was an uncle that served over there off of Omaha Beach. And Carol Smith's asking, she says, did you say or know how many Normandy survivors are still alive? That's not a bad question. Do you know that by chance, Glennie?
How many?
The Normandy
Americans?
Yeah.
Like the people?
Yeah.
Well, so when it happened, it was 1944, and it was 80 years ago. So, anybody that's 84 and older would be remembering it. There are a lot of them. I mean, there are a lot of older people who came out. There were people who came out in wheelchairs. There are a lot of civilians who are left that remember it. Now, they might not have been adults when it happened, but as children, they have vivid memories. They have vivid memories of what happened and what they went through. And you have to remember this also. The Germans didn't just occupy this area. They lived in the homes with these people.
Exactly right.
So they occupied their homes.
They did.
So these children remember, what went on in their homes, and they remember some of the Germans actually, were made to come, little 15-year-olds made to come here. So some of the Germans were actually like family to them, and some of the Germans were incredibly cruel. But they remember, and they remember like some of the things that their parents did to help with the resistance. Like one man was telling me that his father was a hammer maker, and that they had to have everything approved. Everything they did had to be approved by the Germans. Well, they need hammers. They were building bunkers, and they were doing things, so they need hammers. So there were hammer makers here. And then the Germans allowed him to export his hammers. And so what he did is the hammers that went to England, he put a little cap on the end and put pegs instead of nails or screws. He didn't have that. He put pegs to hold the little end cap on. But you pull the pegs out, and there was a map about where the German bunkers were.
Wow.
his community
Incredible.
and notes that he could send over. There were 19 million articles of information sent over to England by the people who live here.
Right.
19 million.
Yeah, and Carol, we mentioned that she said, Glennie said earlier, there was about 200 vets there yesterday, so we know at least 200 of them have survived. Outdoories' Uncle Al was in the 82nd Airborne, and that's awesome. And he served there, and so forth. But anyway, Glennie, this has been so good. Go ahead, hon. Go ahead.
I'll tell you, if your veteran is here, or if you want to see, if you want to see the veterans who were here, any of them, you can go to the AT YouTube channel. It's American Battle Monuments Commission over the Normandy Cemetery. So they broadcast it live, I'm told, and I think that on their YouTube channel they should have the full ceremony. And you can hear every name of every veteran who was there. Yeah.
Say that one more time. You broke up just a little bit when you announced that name.
I will. It's the ABMC, the American Battle Monuments Commission. And they do have a YouTube page. And I do believe that I know that the ceremony was broadcast in some form live, but I do believe they have the ceremony on the YouTube, the entire ceremony. And you can see, if you're wondering if there's someone that you know that might be over here, they recognized every single person, every single veteran that was there. They called his name out or her name out. We had a nurse, and we had a Rosie the Riveter that was here.
Awesome.
And you Rosie the Riveter, we need to try to get her a hoot. But they called each of their names out, and they each came out individually, and there was a long-standing ovation until every one of them were finished being called.
Well, I'm going to give you a project, and we'll talk about this when I talk to you again in person. But I'd love to, if you can get us in contact with one of the veterans, we'd love to have them come on the show and talk to us by phone. I know it's hard for them to do the computer stuff, but I would love to just get them on the phone. We can do it by audio and put their picture up, because we like to honor these people, Glennie, any way we can. And it's been on my heart. Like, the Lord brought our paths together 5 years ago, and COVID hit, and I think the Lord's timing is always perfect, and it was good that I reached out to you. I had you on my heart yesterday morning. I'm not joking. When I woke up, the Lord laid you on my heart heavily, and He said, you need to reach out to Glennie today, because today's the 80th, and I did, and I was so glad to hear back from you, and I'm so grateful we got you on today. And but I would love, if we can, I know it may be hard, but if you can help us, maybe we can get a few of them on and talk. And I know that it would bless the people. I know it blessed me.
I will do what I can. I'll definitely do what I can. I can tell you that my little organization, we brought over a videographer this time. So we have a man who's going to make it's not a documentary, but he's going to he documented Bob Sargent is the veteran. He documented his trip, and Bob is very articulate. He wouldn't ride in a wheelchair. He's very stubborn, very articulate. The man works 2 jobs. He's a barista at a coffee house, and he works as a maintenance man for a university. And he drives and lives alone, and he's just a wonderful man. But we are going to have footage of things that went on here for people to see, and I will make it publicly available. Probably on my Facebook page would be the best way to see it. But yeah, I'll try to get him on. It might be a few weeks.
That's fine. No, it's fine, buddy. You just take your time and you get back home safe. And I do want to read you a comment. Keith, good to see you, and I like your name. It says Keith, a whosoever. I love the name, Keith. He says Normandy is just across the water from me here on the Isle of Wight, England. I was there a few years ago visiting the war graves and the beaches. It was a very, very moving experience for me. And I pray the Lord will grant me some grace to go there myself one day, Glennie, and see this before the Lord takes me on. I tell you, there's a lot of places in this world I want to see. Normandy, France is one of them. Israel's another. And but Keith, I bet it was. And I'm sure, Glennie, that's the thing. That's the human part of this that, people probably gets lost in this. I know for you personally, because I've talked to you, and your heart is in this, and it's always what's really impressed me and granted me a lot of respect for you, because you're not just doing this. Your heart is for these veterans. And look, there ain't many people like you out there, buddy. I'm telling you, I appreciate you much what you're doing to help these veterans go. And I can only imagine standing over these graves and seeing that beach. Knowing our country, if you love our country, I put it like this: if you love America, you're gonna want to go see Normandy, France. You just are, and you're gonna want to honor the memory of these veterans. And you know, if you can't go, you're gonna listen to shows like the McFiles on a Friday afternoon on June the 7th and June 6th every year, because we're gonna have a special every year honoring these veterans on D-Day.
We might just have to get a group of people together to come over. I used to work in travel, and I did tour directing and tour guiding. You know, we might have to get a group of people to come over. I would like for I know people. You know, I know buses, I know accommodations, and I can get a group together. But we might, if people are interested, we might have to get a group of people to start coming over here.
I think that'd be awesome.
To go home and to share what they have learned, because I think there's so many people have come up to me, and I'll tell you, there are some news people that came up to me that I really had I still have very little respect for them, but they came up to me and they said, there's something spiritual here that we don't talk about in America. I said, well, you need to feel it, and then you need to start talking about truth in America, and then you'll feel it more, because maybe we'll feel it in America if we talk truth, because this is a place, Chris, that it cannot hide. It cannot hide, because everywhere you go, there are bullet holes on churches. There are places that have been bombed out. The cliffs are there with the bunkers. The bunkers are still here. You know, the monuments are here. These people have documented everything. I went walking tonight. I found a place where one of the veterans asked me years ago, could you find where my glider landed, where I met up with the 4th Infantry, but I can't remember where it was. I found it tonight because the people here had marked it. So this is a place where you can't forget, because it's just honest. It's honest. It happened here. And they have kept it. They've kept it, and they've treasured it. And they have broadcast it to the world. And I think we're getting close to getting into a situation in America where we need that attitude. We need to
absolutely
say it and to document it, and to, we appreciate those who stand up for truth, and never let us get into the situation we're in again. And I would love to bring people here. I would love to bring them here and then have them go home into their communities and just talk. And then more people will come, and then maybe more people will take it back to America. I mean, it's almost like spreading the gospel. This is spreading the truth, and the people who fight for liberty, they deserve to have the truth about what their deeds, like the glory. I'm having a hard time. The glory of their deeds will never diminish. Time will not diminish the glory of the deeds that were done here for the righteous cause of freedom.
That's right, buddy. That's right. I feel you. I feel the presence of God on what you're saying. I do. And listen, I know it's late. I'm going to let you go. I thank you for coming on. And listen, we're going to have you back on when you get back to the States, because we're going to pick this theme up again. And I'll be in touch with you. I want to thank you for taking your time out in Normandy, France. And I'll be in touch. And thank you so much for being with us on our McFiles News Network this afternoon, buddy.
Thank you, and thank you for everyone who had the patience to listen to me, and I appreciate all of you.
You're great, Glennie.
And Chris, you're doing a wonderful thing too. Thank you for having me.
Bless you, friend. We'll talk soon. Take care now.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's Glennie McDonald Sims. I've had her name backwards. She's not a Sims McDonald. She's a McDonald Sims. I'm gonna hear about that one. We're not related. I don't know what string of McDonald's she is, but we don't have too many Macs that spell their name MCD in America. There's a few, but Glennie is one of them. But her last name is Sims. Her husband's a Sims, not a McDonald. Listen, I hope you enjoyed her today. That was coming to you very much in the heart, live in Normandy, France. And Glennie's group, Normandy Remembers, goes there every single year to honor these veterans, just like that you heard her talk about this afternoon, and so forth. I want to thank all of you for being with us. It's been a short, abbreviated show, and we're grateful for you. Outdoor, thank you for being out there, buddy. I didn't have any notice. I'm sorry. I would have texted you a little bit sooner about this, but we were sort of unsure if she could even get on this afternoon because we had problems yesterday. She said the internet service was down, and with Biden being there, they wasn't sure if they were going to do it again because they basically shut the cell service down a little bit yesterday. And I've seen events like that where they do that when President Trump would be in D.C. Campaigning, or even during the time he was president. I would go up there and they would cut cell service in D.C. when he was speaking. So. But thank you for being out there short notice. I would have given you a bigger heads up if I'd have known what we was hoping for this today, and it came through. So thank you for being with me and all you that are out there. Now listen, this was not really our show for the day. This was an extra. You got a freebie. Everything's freebie here. Everything's a freebie here. But this is a bonus, McFile bonus show today. And we're going to get to the real good stuff tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern, right here on the News Network. Now, I'm going to be here by myself. I'm going to have the cowboy hat and the vest on. We're gonna light it up. We got a lot of news headlines, a lot of cool memes to look at, videos to share. We'll talk a little bit about D-Day again, but this was our way of telling all you veterans out there again today, thank you for your service to this nation, and thank you for any of your family members that are listening to me. Dora, this includes you, Tony, you, all of you that have put Keith, all of you that have loved ones. The gentleman that was his wife, his uncle, the 101-year-old uncle, I'm sure was probably a member of this Normandy group. If you have a family member that served in the armed forces during this terrible time of our history, when we were fighting against this fascist government of Germany, please know that this network and this host respects you and loves you dearly. And when we do these shows, it is out of the deepest respect and the deepest honor and the deepest love that we can muster as humans on this earth to say thank you for your service. And to thank you for being brave enough to get off that boat in those waters off Normandy on June the 6th, 1944, 80 years ago yesterday, and put your life on the line for this nation, and really not just this nation, but this whole world. And God was with you. It was definitely bloodshed. It was definitely death. But there was great victory that came as a result of it. And we thank you for your courage then, and we thank you for your courage now. And I pray God preserves all of you, that we can have 3 more of these. How about that? And it's amazing to me how these veterans have. If she had 200 vets there yesterday, I mean, that's incredible. That really is an incredible number that many have survived and are still living among us. And we are going to try to get some of those men. I know Glennie will try her best to do it, to come on the network, and we'll talk to them. I bet that's going to be some interesting conversation. Because I like stuff like this. This is down my wheelhouse, because this is history, and this is our nation, and this is America. Keith says, I agree with your guest, Chris. I highly recommend visiting Normandy. It's a very emotional experience, especially looking out from a bunker and imagining the Allies storming the beaches. Keith, appreciate that, and thank you for being with us this afternoon. And come back and be with us again, buddy. You're welcome here. Great to have new listeners. Cindy says, Cindy Max from Canada. She says, thank you, Chris. My uncle was in CAF and all my British relatives. God bless all the vets. Cindy is from Canada, and she had some British vets. And we thank Britain because Britain was part of this coalition. Canada, Britain, America, Australia was part. And Cleo told me this morning, she sent me a text. I was checking on her. We're going to pray for Cleo over the weekend. She needs prayers, or her family and all, but and others do. But Greece was actually indirectly involved with the Normandy situation. There was other nations that don't get a lot of recognition, but they were helping, and I didn't know that. So we thank these nations that were. We do, and I want to say it again. I appreciate President Macron of France for the way he handled himself yesterday. Look, I pray for this president. he frustrates me to my very last nerve. He grates on my nerves. He's gotten to the point now, he's like Obama. When Obama spoke, I couldn't even listen. I had to turn the volume down, and I do the same thing with Joe Biden. I just do. I can't even listen to him. I don't even know what he said yesterday. I heard the news clip about the Ukraine-Russia thing because it's what we do here. We follow the news, and I had to listen to some of the stuff he said, and I couldn't listen but 3 minutes of it and turned it off. It was a disgrace. It was a disgrace how our contingency of this country honored these vets, because they didn't honor these vets. It turned into a political rally. And it's pathetic. It's pathetic. But France, we may not see eye to eye on anything, and we sure don't believe in socialism, but I salute you this afternoon as a nation for honoring our American vets that stormed the beaches of your nation 80 years ago yesterday and brought liberty to Europe through the help of the Lord and so forth. Listen, I'm going to let you go this afternoon. I'll see you tonight, 9 o'clock, right back here on the News Network. Now, Chris won't be so subdued tonight at 9 o'clock. Chris, woo! Trust me, I've been looking at the headlines today. I'm a little fired up. So, just be with me. We may have James on the phone tonight, James Akers, and so forth. I don't know if he's going to be able to come on a Friday night, but we'll have a good time. We'll take your questions. We'll interact with you, just like we did this afternoon. And we want to thank you all for being with us this afternoon. If you enjoyed Glennie Sims, say amen somebody. Put some fire in that house, as we always do. And I want to play this song. I'm going to play the audio version of it. And you're going to really like this. This is the song we played yesterday by video. And, actually, I'm going to play the video. The video just, it is probably more moving than even the audio version is. So let me do this. Let me see if I can find it here. And I had it. Where is that video from yesterday? I tell you what we're going to do. Let me come over here. I know it's right here. Let's see here. Right there. I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to play it here. Listen, have a good evening, everybody. Enjoy your dinner, supper. See me back here at 9 o'clock. And until then, Chris McDonald for Glennie McDonald Sims. I had the name switched around there. Be blessed, and remember our veterans from Normandy, France, the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Let this song bless you. If you didn't hear it yesterday, it's well worth the listen. Have a good day, everybody. I'll see you tonight, okay?
In the cold grey light of the 6th of June in the year of 44, the Empire Lark sailed out from Pole to join with thousands more, the largest fleet the world had seen. We sailed in close array, and we set our course for Normandy at the dawning of the day. There was not one man in all our crew but knew what lay in store, for we had waited for that day through 5 long years of war. We knew that many would not return, but all our hearts were true, for we were bound for Normandy, where we had a job to do. Now the Empire Lark was a deep-sea tug with a crew of 33, and I was just the galley boy on my first trip to sea. I little thought when I left home of the dreadful sights I'd see, but I came to manhood on the day that I first saw Normandy. At Arromanches, off the beach of gold, 'neath the rocket's deadly glare, We towed our block ships into place, and we built a harbour there. Mid shot and shell we built it well, as history does agree. While brave men died in the swirling tide on the shores of Normandy. For every hero's name that's known, 1,000 died as well. On stakes and wires their bodies hung, rocked in the ocean swell. And many a mother wept that day for the sons they loved so well. Men who cracked a joke and cadged a smoke as they stormed the gates of hell. As the years pass by, I can still recall the men I saw that day, who died upon that blood-soaked sand, where now sweet children play. And those of you who were unborn, who've lived in liberty, remember those who made it so on the shores of Normandy.